Welcome to the Civil 3D part of Deliverable 2. I hope your surveying experience went well. I know it can be frustrating. Trust me, I've done this a fair number of times, but hopefully it was pretty smooth and you guys got good data and you learned a lot from that experience. Now, hopefully you exported your data as a PENZD CSV file. If you did it as a PNEZD file or something similar, that's okay. If you exported the file with a bunch of extra columns, that's also okay. You can just delete them, or you can export this file. Whoever's phone you did the survey on, as long as the app is still installed, that survey data is still there. So you can look at it, re-export the data, or add points to it if you need to in the future, should you need to. So looking at the data, you're going to want to make sure you have 5 columns, A through E, and we need to clean up this data, or you may need to clean up this data, depending on what format you exported this in. So for example, if you have a header row where that says point elevation or point easting, northing, description, anything like that, you'll need to delete that row. If you have any extra columns, you'll need to delete those columns. And the way you can do that is just click a column or a row, right click and select delete, and it'll delete it. I can do that for a row as well here. I can select on the left side the actual number. It highlights the whole row. I can delete, and now you can see that it's gone. I'm just Control-Zing that, undoing it to get it back. So again, make sure that you just have the bare bone data you need. Make sure, even though you're opening this in Excel, this is saved as a .csv file. That's the easiest way to open it in Civil 3D. I think text files also work pretty well, but this is just the way I have learned how to do this. And the last thing you want to do is check the description names and your actual point information. Now, just to go over this again, or maybe go over it for the first time, PENZD is a method of data organizing for coordinates. P stands for point, E stands for easting, N stands for northing, Z stands for Z or elevation, and D stands for description. There's other standards as well. This is the one that we use though. Think of easting and northing as being very similar to latitude and longitude, but instead of being based upon the equator and the prime meridian, the easting and northing are based on state planes. So if you recall in Deliverable 1, we talked about how each state is broken up into at least one or more state planes, and that makes for more accurate design and construction given the curvature of the Earth. 0, 0 is kind of the origin point for every state plane. And so this number is the number of feet away from that 0, 0 position this point is. So that's, here is the easting, and this is the northing. Northing being in the north-south direction, easting being in the east-west direction. I believe that the origin point is always the southwest corner of the plane, but don't quote me on that. So that way, easting and northing are always a positive number and in the direction of east and north. Elevation here is in feet above sea level, and then the description is a helpful tag. A couple notes here. If you don't have a description, I would add one, and I would take a similar form to what I have here. Any long sentences or descriptions will make it harder for us to categorize these points in a couple minutes here. So choose something that's short and descriptive. So that's one note. The other note is that you can assign multiple descriptors to the same point. What do I mean by that? Say you're taking a point and you want it to be classified as a boundary, and you want it to be classified as a sidewalk. Then you could make your point description sidewalk, dash, boundary, or some other form. And in Civil 3D, it's possible to classify this point as a sidewalk and a boundary, which you'll see here in a couple minutes. So that's just something to note. I would make these as short but as descriptive as you can. The longer they are, the harder they are to work with. Try to group them into things that make sense as well. I think right now I have light for light poles, sidewalk for sidewalk boundaries, ground is just my go-to catch-all, and then I have electrical for electrical plates and storm for storm sewers or storm grates. If you have any points where you collected the data and you're like, oh, this doesn't look right, you have 3 options. in terms of deleting it. You can delete the point inside of the EMLID surveying app itself before you export. You can find one of those points here and you can delete them here, or you can delete them once we get into Civil 3D. And deleting them in Civil 3D might be the easier route because you can visualize what an incorrect point might look like. So again, just make sure this is your bare bones data. You don't have any extra headers or extra columns, and make sure this is saved as a CSV file. All right, so I'm going to close this out. You need to make sure you close it out before you can upload it into Civil 3D. Just one of those weird things. So closing out of that, I can see here's my file. It's saved and saved to OneDrive, and it's still a CSV file, which is important. If you make edits to a file in Excel, sometimes they'll get saved as Excel files. So just check that it's a CSV file. And if it's not, just reopen it in Excel and save as a CSV file. All right, now I'm gonna go back to my Civil 3D folder. One note here is you'll now have two surfaces, right? You'll have the surface of the satellite GIS data that we gave you, and you'll have the surface from your surveying data. These two pieces of data are going to remain in separate files, so you should never have a file with both surfaces in it unless you're doing so for your own exploration or testing purposes. So instead of copying a file here, I'm actually just going to create a new file. So I'm just going to go to Civil 3D, create a new file. We're going to start by doing the same thing we did last time of assigning a coordinate system. So I'll do CS assign and assign a coordinate system. We're going to use the same coordinate system. So I'm just going to search VA83-SF and click assign. And for elevation, you're welcome to find the matching elevation datum that you used for your surveying, but you also don't need to assign one. So I'm just gonna hit OK. And now in the Insert tab on the Home ribbon, instead of using the land XML file, we're gonna do points from file. So I'm gonna click points from file, and here you can see you can select a file or multiple files. Navigate to wherever you have that data saved. And if it's not showing up, just check the file type that you can see. You can change it between CSV files, text files, or all files. And one of those should work for you to be able to see your data. So I have here the fall 25 data that we surveyed. I'm gonna go ahead and import that. And I need to specify the file format. So we were talking about how this is as a PENZD format. So I'm just gonna find PENZD in this list. And make sure it's comma delimited, because that's how a CSV file delimits its information. Don't use the one that is space delimited if there is an option for it. This preview looks pretty good to me. It looks like my points would be importing correctly with each column corresponding correctly. Here you do want to select add points to point group, and right now you can see there are no point groups. We'll talk about what those are in the next video. But for now, just know that you can hit this button to create a new one, and we're going to create a new point group called survey points. Hit OK, and all of the points you make will be added to this point group. Now, I hit OK, all the points imported. You can tell because if you click on points in the prospector, here are a list of all the points. If we expand this point groups tab, you can see that the survey points group was made, but you don't see anything. And that's because of the zoom. So if I just type zoom extents again, here you can see all the points we got. And we can turn geolocation on. Again, this won't line up exactly. This will be off, but you can see it's actually a pretty good match. You can see the trees are slightly off from the imagery, and it is possible to shift where the image is. You can use these commands here to do that. We won't be doing that here, but if you really, really want to line it up, you can. And you can see the sidewalk is maybe a little bit off, but it mostly matches up. So I imported the points. I'm gonna go ahead and save so that way I don't lose this work. And I'm gonna save this in the project tutorial folder for me. as 2A survey data. Great. Now, in the next tutorial, we'll go over the point groups I was talking about, and we'll create a surface from these points.